Live from America's heartland, this is the Daily Truth Report with your host, Noah Christopher.
Welcome back to the Daily Truth Report. I'm your host, Noah, and returning back on the show today is Bo Polny. We are so excited to have Bo back on, and I always know it's time to bring him back on when I start getting emails from people asking, when's Bo coming back on? Because they want to know what's coming next and where we're at with things. So we have a lot to talk about. But first, let me just say, Bo, welcome back to the show.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. As always, love speaking with you, and I really appreciate all the work that you do. I regularly like to go check your website out because it's got like some real fun news versus any news that's really out there. So I appreciate all the work that you are doing, and thank you for having me back on.
Yeah, thank you so much. We work to bring you the stuff that they censor everywhere else and that you can't read. So appreciate that. Bo, I want to take just a second. I know a lot of people know who you are, and they've been waiting for this interview. But if there's also new people here, and I haven't taken the time to give a little bit of your background in the last couple interviews. So I just want to say, if you're not familiar with Bo, you're going to love this. Bo is an analyst of time, the cycles of time. That you can see that on the screen behind him. He looks at the different cycles that are in the Bible and how those cycles are continuing to play out in our life today in gold and silver and cryptocurrencies and in the news and in different political cycles. He's been on CNBC several times. He's been viewed on YouTube millions of times. And it's really a pleasure to get his time tonight. So, Bo, we have so much to talk about. I also wanted to recap just briefly some people that if they haven't seen all of your old videos when you've been on our show and other shows, you have made some incredible predictions about things you would say in the past. You'd say, hey, watch this date or watch this time period. And just a couple of those that I was looking back on my notes, April 20th, 2020, you said it's going to be a big day. And for the first time, I think in the history of recorded financial world, oil went negative for what it costs to get a barrel of oil. They would pay you literally to take a barrel of oil. Never happened before. And you said that was going to be a big day, and it was. Later that year, you said September 18th, 2020. Don't know what it's going to be, but something big is going to happen. And that was the day that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, all of a sudden at 8:00 p.m., I get an alert on my phone saying she had died. And of course, that leads to the Supreme Court that we have today. And some big rulings from the Supreme Court that our world might look very different if Trump had not appointed the people that he did. A bunch of other things. We're going to talk about these in a minute. You have a beautiful slide deck prepared, as you always do. On page 45 of that slide deck, you've got a lot of things just from the last year talking about the Russia and Saudi Arabia agreement. You had the exact day that was going to happen. You had China's Lehman Brothers moment when Evergrande failed to make multiple bond payments. You've hit each of those. Those are listed. And then we've got several coming up. So I just wanted to give that history, Bo. A lot of people may not know it. And there's a lot more. I picked about 4 or 5 of my favorites from prior shows. But let me turn it over to you. Is that, tell us in a 1-minute recap, is that a fair summary of the work you do? Tell us what you do.
That's basically well described. Thank you for doing that, Noah. There's many historical time points. Basically, the Bible is the truth. And so what I've learned is if you study the Bible, particularly what I've done is I've got into the latter part of it, the back part of it called Revelation. There's a section of it called Daniel, and Daniel describes a timeline. What I've came to realize is that when you take that Daniel timeline, it can be broken up in many different patterns in terms of years, months, days. You can break it down in different, numerous different ways, which I've come to realize over the past 10 to 15 years. So I've used that pattern numerous times, or those calculations, to calculate time. And what is a cycle? A cycle is a point between a start and an end. So it creates a cycle of time. So that's why I analyze time. I don't analyze the events, I analyze time. And so all these past events or dates that I've given dates. I didn't give the event. I just said a very big thing should happen on these particular dates. And that's exactly what happened. There's numerous examples over and over again. Very, very big world events occur on specific dates. And then going back to last year, we've had a huge cycle, would be the 50-year cycle of Nixon, right? When Nixon detached gold from the dollar. That was supposed to be we know it's a lie, but they said temporarily, and nothing's ever temporarily. But that was on August 15th of 71, 50 years later to the exact day. That's a cycle. So 50 years from start to end, the characters change, the events will change, but the timeline holds. And so on August 15th of this past August summer, 2021, on that exact day was the fall of Kabul. So how incredible is that? But that's exactly what happened. And so we've got these critical time points that we've been talking about. And the essence of everything, we are in end times. My website is Gold 2020 Forecast. The reason it's 2020, because 2020 describes the start of the end, the start of end times. So we are approaching right now the third seal of Revelation. So what are the seals? For those who don't know. So if you read the Bible in Revelation, there's 7 seals within Revelation. The first 4 are described as the 4 horsemen. And then, so you've heard the horsemen of Revelation, they're all different colors. So the third seal is the third horseman. And that is depicted as a black horse with a rider holding scales. And we are approaching now, or we are literally like this year, days away. We're like right here for this third seal event. The third seal event is the greatest financial event in human history. So we're waiting and we're waiting. If you look at my calculations, you did mention page 45, so as of November 22nd, we're 180 degrees from the center of end times, based on the charts that we were looking at, particularly the blood moons, and most importantly was the eclipses. And, we've talked about that. That's actually on page 44 for your viewers. So the essence of everything is we are at, if you want to describe, look at like a stick of dynamite, the wick is lit. It's burning right now. That's burning. And so we're just waiting for that wick to hit the explosive, the TNT, and then all heck is about to break loose in this world. So we're that close. As of November 22nd of last year, that wick is lit. And so now we've got another critical date coming in February 20th. February 20th will be 180 degrees from tipping point. What is tipping point? Tipping point was when Saudi Arabia signed a military agreement with Russia. And so we knew something big was going to happen on August 24th of last year. And lo and behold, United States has a military agreement with Saudi Arabia. So why would Russia sign one unless the United States doesn't have one anymore? Because that'd be the only reason why Saudi Arabia would need another contract. Well, why wouldn't you want another contract considering how they abandoned Kabul, right? So I would say Saudi Arabia is a little bit panicked right now, so they don't trust the United States. So now they signed a pact with Russia because the United States literally abandoned Kabul. Okay, so we're at tipping point, 180 degrees. Is the February 20th of this coming month, and we're at past 180. So all I'm telling you is that that explosive is lit. Something huge, world changing. And like I was on stage just this past weekend, and the essence of my entire presentation was very simple. God can overturn the tables, everything you believe to be true, in a 24-hour period. So as everything you're seeing today, within a 24-hour window, if God's involved, it will be upside down. Everything's going to be different, which examples were like the time of Daniel, who was literally supposed to be killed in the morning, unless you could interpret the dream. All the wise men, all the soothsayers, everybody was to be killed. And that morning, Daniel gave the king the dream. And not only was Daniel not killed, he was put second in command only under the king, Nebuchadnezzar. Another example was the Red Sea moment. It was 10 plagues upon Egypt. Finally, Pharaoh releases Israel. They head to the Red Sea. 20 days later, they get there. Pharaoh changes his mind and he's back out going. He sends his army and himself to go kill Israel. Israel's basically screwed. Okay, they're pinned up against the Red Sea. Where are they going to go? But God had a plan. Within 24 hours, what happened? Israel's on the other side of the Red Sea. The Red Sea's closed. Pharaoh's dead and his entire army. Okay, so my point being is, as ugly as things look in the world, God loves his creation. We are at harvest time. Harvest means people, yourself included, Noah, myself, your listeners, we've all planted seeds. What does that mean? You and I have been, speaking the word of God, of Christ. We're trying to educate we're planting seeds to wake up God's church. Okay. The evil ones have been planting evil. They've been planting evil seeds. And so when God overturns the tables, what you have sown, you shall reap. So if you've sown evil seeds, you're going to reap them, not God's church. So when God intervenes, he's going to overturn the tables on these people. And what they want to happen to us is going to happen to them, Noah. So that's where we're at. We are literally at a point, and we're waiting on that secret, God's secret time window, because no one knows the day or the hour. We're literally at that moment in time where there's a secret time window where all heck is going to break loose. God's going to, that firework is lit. It's going to hit the explosive. The world's going to shake. And I literally mean the world's going to shake because God's involved. So there's going to be, we've already seen some volcanoes going off, and we're going to see mass, shaking across the globe. God's going to intervene, and these people are going to fall. And we are at that 180-day mark where we're heading back to May. So between now and May, tell you, May is going to, by the time we hit the May and then next summer, like crazy. And February is looking very historic for where things could start to happen. So that's like the big picture, Noah. So go ahead and, ask any particular questions, the questions that come to you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, that's great, Bo. Thank you. How's that for an introduction?
That's like I wasn't sure to stop, so I just kind of kept going with it. But I wanted your viewers to know about the word hope, okay? And God loves his creation. God will not forsake us. We're in the year of Jubilee, and all hell's about to break loose. Hell on the people who've basically been planting evil seeds, and glory for those of us in the church, in God's kingdom that have been waiting. So yeah. It's a double-edged sword.
Well, that's great. And Bo, I just posted online that we were talking now, and I said, hey, what should I ask Bo? And I've got a bunch of questions here. And by far the most popular question, here's one from Janie. Janie says, is it time? ? And then another person says, is it about to go down? And I've got dozens of these. When will things start happening? And you just described it, Bo, but it feels like we came up to the moment and we've just been sitting here and waiting. And it's that fuse that you just described, where the fuse has been lit and it's just moving on down the fuse, and that fire's moving. And I want you to talk more about this, but we are at the moment where this happens any day now, any time now, any hour, any moment. We have done what we've prepared, we've done everything, and we are in that. That's why I wanted to have this slide up with the protractor. We are in that period of time where it might be now, it might be January, it might be February, it might be March, it could be any moment, but it is time where we're going to see things that we haven't seen before. And I want to turn this over to you and let you talk, but you're saying not only is it going to come suddenly in a moment, but it's going to come in a 24-hour period. It's going to come quickly. And it's almost going to be kind of that old phrase, shock and awe, where you're watching the news and you don't believe what's happening. Let me kick it back to you. Tell us, because that is the number one question on people's mind. And I want to talk about that for a second.
Exactly. Number one is, this is a biblical event, okay? And this is going to be aside from creation, okay? Remember, creation was 6 days, and God said, things are good, and he rested on the seventh. So we're at this point, that was the greatest move of God's Spirit in history, right? So we are at probably the second greatest move of God's Spirit ever. He's literally going to shake the earth. The truths are going to come out. He's had this all planned. Nothing that these evil ones have done, Noah, God didn't know about. He knew what they were going to do. He even planned all of this because he wanted the church, the people of the world, to wake up. He wanted the people of the world to see what their plan was. Do you now know what their plan is, Noah?
Right. And
Isn't it kind of, they told us what their plan is, to shut down the globe and control
it's
everything.
horrible.
It's horrible. They've shown you what their plan is, okay? But now God, not even now, but no, God's in control. He wrote this, he knew what they were going to do, so he's made counter moves. He's the master chess player. God knows what they were going to do, so he's got the chess moves. As ugly as it is, he has the magic chess move that only takes 24 hours. So
And you know, Bo,
by the time March hits, I'm telling, we've been waiting and waiting, but all I'm know is that we win, and this is so close. I can't tell you. Go ahead, Noam.
yeah, no, you just described it. But I think if we all had our preferences, we would have wanted 45 to have been declared the winner rightfully. And we all can see where the crowds are gathering, and we can all see who rightfully won. But we all would have preferred that to be declared in November of 2020. But then we wouldn't have seen any of this stuff. And some of us already knew about it. You knew about it. You've come on our show and talked about it. But millions of people are now seeing what these plans are, these evil plans. And it's taken time to expose that, and it's taken time for people to wake up. But now you can kind of see that this was pretty brilliant.
Well, they've been planning this. Remember, Satan, you have to step back and look at this. Okay, look at this from two perspectives. Number one, from an evil side and from godly side. Number one is God knew what they were going to do. He created everything. Okay, he also gave everybody free will, including his angels. Lucifer fell. Lucifer knows he's never going back to heaven, ever. Okay, and so he has now been on this earth for thousands of years planning. Okay, so none of this is like new information. He's been working his plan for thousands of years. Lucifer even had them as of 1918, I believe it was, or 1913. They created the Federal Reserve Act on a Christmas Eve when no one's there. So they've been planning all this for generations. And then when we talked about Nixon, remember when the Federal Reserve Act, at least there was some correlation between the gold and the dollar. But with Nixon, once you detached gold from the dollar, there was no more correlation, 1-to-1, 10-to-1. There was zero correlation, which means that the creators of the money, or those in charge of the money, and they've convinced humanity that paper money is actually money. So now we've had all these, years and years and years of people believing paper is money, and the originators of it, the creators of it, can print it to infinity. Well, guess what they're doing? They're printing it to infinity. And now, so just like we had a huge stock market crash of 2020, right? And in February, I was on the Greg Hunter show. Another thing I said was, don't be surprised that we have a very, between a 30 or 40% stock market crash next month. We had a 38% stock market crash in 2020 March. Okay, so if you can click to page 41, what did they do in March of 2021, March of 2020, on page 4? Look, what do you see there? What is the red arrow pointing to? The money supply. What just happened in 2020?
Wow.
Okay, vertical spike. So how do they create Disneyland? Or how this is a game of Monopoly. Okay, this is Monopoly money. And so when the markets crashed in 2020 March, over the weekend they printed $7 trillion. That's your spike right there. And guess where they put the $7 trillion? Because they can make as much as they want. It might have been more than 7 trillion, but I heard it was 7 to 8 trillion. And they stuck it in the stock market. Oh, everything's fine. Your 401ks are okay. Don't worry. Trust me. You're all good. Your stock market's fine. We keep making new highs. Don't worry about a thing. You see how they do it? You see how they do
Yeah,
it?
and
When you
look at that quote there. 40% of all money has been printed in the last 12 months.
Yep. It took
Wow.
and to blow your mind, it took 100 years to make the first trillion.
Hmm.
Okay. My point is, if your viewers enjoy the game Monopoly and they believe that the money that we're using is real, it's real money, then you keep playing that game. It's not for you or I to tell people what to do. It's for you and I to speak the truth and for people to either choose to hear it or not. Okay. But none of what I'm showing, this is from the St. Louis Fed. I didn't make this chart. It's from the St. Louis Fed. My point being is, if you think it's okay to have the federal, which is not federal, which is not a reserve, to think it's okay, it's a private institution of like a bunch of bankers to just create money out of thin air, and you believe that you're very wealthy, well, that's fantastic. Okay. If that's what you believe. But I tell you that the money is created out of thin air. And there's a perfect example what happened in 2020. My point being is, why are gold and silver not going down? They have paper contracts to prevent them from going up, but they sure can't drop it much. It keeps kind of migrating up slowly. Look at cryptocurrencies. Okay. When you and I started talking, Bitcoin was at 10,000. Now it's at 42, 40, whatever, low 40s. But my point is, look at what it's done. It's keep everything that's tangible, meaning gold and silver and cryptocurrencies ultimately are the biggest hedge against this fake money printing. So my point being is that everything we're seeing in this world, Noah, is smoke and mirrors, including why you created your website. Why did you create your website? Think about, because
Right.
no one can get the real news anywhere. So they got to go to
Mhm.
alternate sources. So you have an alternate source website to give. So everything out there is a lie, right down to the money system. Okay. But why? Because Satan's had 6,000 years to plan this. Okay. So that goes back to what we just talked about. This is a story going back hundreds and thousands of years. And God knew it. He wrote Revelation, and we're in end times. Gold 2020 forecast. We are in end times. We're at year 2022. We're heading into the third seal. What I came to discover is the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So the now third horseman. So all these horses are of man. The reason there's no last three horses, because those will be of God. That's God's bringing his judgment down on these people.
Mm.
So the first three, and then so the first one was the coronavirus. Second one was they brought the George Floyd riot. So again, of man. And then the third one is
Mhm.
going to be this paper monetary system of man that gets destroyed by God. So it's very interesting how this is all playing out. God's, he's the master of what's going on in the world. He's in charge. He's in control. That's the essence of the conversation. As crazy as the world is, God's in control. God knew they were going to do
Yeah.
it. God knew they were going to do it. He's had this all planned, and he's not going to, and they don't win. And before Christ returns, God's going to allow his church to prosper on this earth. So thus, as stated on page 1, we're going to see the great exposure this year, the great removal, the great fall, the great overturning, and the greatest wealth transfer, the greatest financial event in human history, because God's going to turn the tables on the money changers. And there's a lot of
Right.
money. There's a lot of money in this world that's going to get overturned. And then they lose it all. And then and then they're going to have, unfortunately, I've listened to some of the prophets, and then they're going to pay with their lives. So
Right. Well, Bo, it's all connected, isn't it? I mean, it feels, we started off talking about how it feels like we've come right up to the moment, and we're just waiting for that final part of the fuse for the fire to hit the bottom of the fuse. And the same thing it feels the same way with the stock market, with gold and silver, like you just talked about, like cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency's been sitting around, not doing a whole lot. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. I know you've got some great slides on that, but it really, all of this stuff, from what I'm hearing you say, it's all connected. So when the financial markets suddenly take that plunge and the dollar suddenly plunges, then a lot of these other things might all be happening at the same time. I want to show you, it's amazing we have you on today. We scheduled this last week, and even just 2 weeks ago, they were saying, oh, there's no inflation. There's no inflation anywhere. Everything's fine. You know, even though you've got this vertical spike of money printing on the screen here in this chart, there's no inflation. Well, they had to give that up last week, and now they say there's 7% inflation. And that's like breaking all sorts of records, right? And then today I wanted to show you this article. Let me see if I can put it on the screen, because today I see this. There you go. Do you see that?
Yes.
Look at that. CNBC. Goldman Sachs CEO says he sees real wage inflation everywhere after 33% jump. So now it's not 7%. Now it's 33% jump in wages. And that's what they were saying. They said, oh, it's 7%, but there's no rise in wages. And it's not that bad. Now it's gone from 7 to 33 in about a week. And it really feels like that fuse is getting awfully close to the bottom. And so I really appreciate you talking about inflation, and maybe we can go to that chart too. Can we go to that dollar chart that you've prepared? Because that's what's coming next, isn't it?
Absolutely. So just go flick to that chart. Before you even do that, no, you did make reference to, you stated the word stock market. Like, go to page 39 and then we'll talk about the dollar next. But again, I hate predicting the stock market because all they do is create money and they keep pushing it up. But what I did look at it, so I stepped back and I made a long-term chart on the stock market. All I got to say is every 20 years it crashes, and every 40 years is a huge crash. Those people in the stock market that think it's safe, look at this chart. You couldn't pay me to hold $10 in the stock market right now, looking at this chart. Okay. All it shows is that there's going to be between a 47 to an 86% market crash in 2022. How big? I have no idea. I don't care. But let me tell you, that is something I wouldn't touch.
Wow. Yeah, that is an amazing chart.
So that's my 2 cents on the stock market. And then to couple that off, we can look at the dollar chart, because again, even if the stock market crashes 50%, they're going to print $20 trillion and pop it right back up again. So it's not about the stock market. People are so fixated on the stock market. It's not about the stock market, because if your dollar devalues by 50%, your stock market's worth junk, okay? Because no one's going to want it. You have to sell it into the dollar, which no one has any value in. So you could have a stock market at crazy numbers, but if your dollar has no value, who cares what number your stock market's at? Because ultimately it doesn't have much value because it's priced in a worthless currency.
Right.
That's the essence of the stock market. It's not about the stock market. It's about the dollar. What is the dollar? It's Goliath. Go to page 65. This is the dollar. God has prophesied through his prophets, okay, that the dollar is going to crash. The crash of the dollar is a takedown of Goliath. How do they control the world? Well, we've talked about that. They've had, Satan's been around thousands of years. He knows with the money supply, everybody, people are greedy, so you start paying everybody off. Next thing you know, you control the world. Well, what do you think they did? So the dollar crash is coming. When the dollar crash comes, it's going to be sudden. That sudden event.
There's that word again.
It's going to be sudden. It's going to be in 24 hours. It's going to be a quick event, okay? And when this quick event happens, you're going to see Bitcoin on the next page, 66, just go insane vertical. I've talked about Bitcoin at 100,000. That's going to be easy, okay? The cycle is extended because the crash hasn't happened yet. Doesn't mean it's not coming. It means that it's going to come. It might be bigger numbers yet, okay? So we got a huge move coming in Bitcoin because why? The dollar is going to crash. When you look
at you say it's the crash of the dollar, but that leads to Bitcoin exploding higher.
Well, exactly. So if you go back to the dollar chart on the left side of it, okay. So we had on the left side in late September Yom Kippur of 2020. Look what happened. The dollar dropped into year end, into the end of. So in September 2020, it dropped into December of 2020. So by the January of 2021, you'll see it bottom there. Compare that. Right. Look what Bitcoin did. When the dollar dropped, Bitcoin went vertical, and it went from 10,500 and it went all the way up to 65,000, or 60,000 range. My point. So it went sixfold from 10,000 to 60,000 in a matter of September, October, November, December, matter of 4 months. Why did it do that? Because
Yeah.
the dollar crashed. Very simple. It's right in front of you. The timelines are right there. So, we're watching Bitcoin bounce around the $40,000 range. Well, if you go back on the historic charts, it bounced around the $10,000 range for like 4 months.
Right there.
Right there on the left side of the page. You bounce under for 4 months and then boom, vertical. Okay. So we're going to see the same thing. So the $40,000 range today is equivalent to 10,000. 10,000 back in 2020. No difference.
Okay. Well,
so we're looking for the second leg of the dollar to the downside, which creates the second leg to the upside for Bitcoin. And this one's going to be fun.
Well, that answers one of our other questions.
Yeah, and that's going to tie in directly, with the cycle work. All that happens is when you have a pattern that extends itself, you then have to extend the pattern, restart the pattern. That's what we've done. So now we had about 80 or 90% success rate on cycle turns all of last year, and now we've pushed it forward again. We're going to the cycle's restarting here in January, and then we're going to basically let it rip vertical. And these next 3 months are going to be historic. So we've got some very important time points coming here in February, because it's going to be a lot of volatility is coming. So big ups, big downs are coming. So after boring is explosions. Okay, so we've had boring, and then we get explosions. Okay, markets only move 10 to 20% of the time. The rest of the time they're boring. So we're getting out of boring and we're coming into fasten your seatbelts is what's coming here. So exciting times, but all of this is related to one thing: the hand of God, which intervenes, destroys the dollar. It doesn't mean it takes it to zero, but it gives it a massive haircut. When the dollar gets a massive haircut, by the hand of this is going to be biblical intervention, we're going to see the greatest move, the greatest financial event in human history occur this year. Everything to be true flips this year. And all I can say, next 3 months are going to be that wick that is lit. It's going to hit the explosive within the next 3 months, sooner probably than later.
Okay, well, everybody, you heard it here first. Bo is not backing off of his $100,000 and more. That's kind of the start, but $100,000 Bitcoin, that is still coming. There's things have delayed, but I wanted to scroll up here, Bo, because
I want to talk
about these
you
beautiful slides.
I also want to touch on the word delayed. See, because the cycle's delayed, it's actually a good thing, because if it topped in December of it'd be over. So now we'd have a long Bitcoin winter. It'd be a long down cycle. So we have a huge advantage right now because the cycle's rebooting itself. And so that's going to really, the down cycle, the downturn, how we have these long, extended, boring bear markets in Bitcoin. And, so you can go back in history, you can study those. Sometimes they take 2 to 3 years, like 2 years or 2.5 years long. Okay. Well, we're now losing the cycle's extended, which is awesome, because now what happens is the Bitcoin bear is going to be far shorter than we've ever seen. So exciting times ahead for Bitcoin.
Oh,
so
wow.
Remember,
okay.
When you take away from one, you have to take away from the other.
Oh, that's great.
When you extend into one, you take away from the other. So that's
take away from the other.
That's exactly. So Bitcoin has just got more power in it with the alternate coins. That's what's coming. So we've got more power longer and less down patterns now.
Well, there's your good news for everybody as well. That's great. Bo, I want to just scroll up here briefly and because I love how you always tie things into the Bible, and it's those cycles and those stories that you layer onto our world here today. So you created these new slides that they look great, but they've got some great content too. So I didn't want to miss out on these before we wrap things up, because you're always so gracious with your time, but we want to be respectful of that. So walk us through these. You've done an analysis of 5 kings and coming from the book of Daniel. And I love this slide here. God only needs one day. That's what you've been talking about. But you've got a lot of examples. Can you take a couple minutes and walk me through these?
Sure. And you're gonna love the fifth king. That's the best one. So it ties in directly with what we're at today and everything about what your website is and everything that you've been doing. So you're gonna find out that Everything you've done over these past years, Noah, has been for a purpose. But in essence, you're correct. So page 2 talks about Daniel, the book of Daniel. None of this is made up. It's out of the Bible. It's prophetic. It's an incredible story how Daniel basically predicted, God gave Daniel. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and God gave the interpretation of the dream to Daniel. And Daniel gave that interpretation to Nebuchadnezzar, and that interpretation literally blew Nebuchadnezzar away. He put him second in charge for interpreting the dream because he didn't even give him the dream. He literally said, I had a dream. I'm not telling you what it is. And if you don't figure it out, I'm going to kill you. It was like not only the prophet, I don't even feel the prophets. It was all the magicians and then the soothsayers and all those ones that talk to all their spirits, right? And and every one of them, they're like, you can't do this. It's not possible unless you give us a dream. Then we can interpret it for you. But he wouldn't even do that. And then Daniel heard of that they're going to kill everybody in the morning. And then I guess the prophets are going to get tied up in that as well. So Daniel walked up to Nebuchadnezzar and said, can I have at least till morning to pray to my God? And then that morning, it's an incredible story. He set forward the entire interpretation of the dream of what it was, all the kingdoms that will exist on this earth for the next 2,500 years. Noah, it happened. But all those kingdoms have come to be, every one of them. Like, it's a crazy story. So, in the essence of it, and the point being is, the last line says, and all men are powerless if the prophecy is true. So Daniel's prophecy was true. And everything that people have done to stop the prophecies from fulfilling, or these prophecies from fulfilling, have been worthless. Everyone has come true so far. And we're talking like the rise of Rome, the rise of Greece, we're talking kingdoms we're talking millions of people. Every kingdom has so far come to be. So it's really incredible. The next
page,
and
Bo, before we go to the next one, I thought it was so interesting when I saw this on slide 4 of your presentation, Nebuchadnezzar. Timothy Dixon has been talking about him a lot and saying that is the fate that befell Nebuchadnezzar is going to happen to 46, and he is we're at the end of the story where he ends up raving mad and eating grass in the field because he's gone crazy. Timothy Dixon says that's coming. So the fact that you guys are both talking about this story at the same time is pretty incredible to me.
Yeah, I don't listen to Timothy. I've heard him 1 or 2 times in the past, but I don't know any of his recent stuff. But I don't know. Other prophets have said that he's supposed to die. So I don't know. I don't really care what his fate is, because all I know is God's got the plan. He's got it all figured out. But it's fascinating because these stories will overlay on present time. So that I know. Just like if you go to the next story of page 5, you got Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego all thrown. They basically refused to bow down to this 90-foot statue of gold. So then Nebuchadnezzar freaks out, throws them in the fire, and then in the fire, he looks, wait, there's 4. And Jesus is in there, right? And so Nebuchadnezzar, wise, he's at least a wise king. And he basically, when he comes out of the fire, what does he decree? You got to love this, right? He decrees any people, nation, or language that speaks anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be torn limb from limb, and their houses laid to ruin. For no other God can save like this. Like, you got to appreciate Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
Anyone says anything against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's God, I will destroy you, tear you from limb to limb.
Yes.
You got to admit, that event when he looked in the fire, there's 4 in there. They walked out of that fire. They walked out of the fire, not even smelling of smoke. This was a king of Babylon. This was not a king of Israel, okay? This was a king of Babylon, decreed that that God, the Father, is the King of Kings.
Yeah, well,
because no other God can save this way.
Yes. And then the Son was worse.
Well, yeah.
Your slide 6.
Yeah, then you've got after that, you've got Mr. Party. He takes all the gold drinking vessels that were from the temple, right? That were taken from the temple, and he starts partying with them, and and then he basically he's a foolish king, and
That's a
then
bad
then he gets
idea.
writing on the wall, yeah. And then writing on the wall, a hand appears, many tekel offshore scene, which basically means in mene means that the God has numbered your days of your reign, and it will be brought to an end, and it will actually be brought to an end tonight, because who interpreted this was Daniel. Daniel interpreted this dream. Actually, this was writing on the wall. Tekel, this is the important one, because tekel actually relates to 2022. It relates to this present time we're in right now. It means that you have been weighed in the scales and found deficient. Okay, so it means that, so that's the United States currency. They've created so much of it, and all the paper monies of the world. Okay, it's all to one side. It's all satanic. It's all evil, and God's money is worthless. Okay, well, we know when God intervenes, he flips the tables. Okay, so and then the last thing means that your kingdom will be divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. That night, Belshazzar was killed. He was killed by King Darius. King Darius took over the kingdom. And so Darius was the king of the Medes. So it was given to the Medes and then later the Persians. So the next Persians was Cyrus. So basically the prophecy came true. You can't stand against the prophecy because the prophecy was true. No matter what man can do, they try to do to stop it, you can't stop the prophecy from fulfilling. And so we're about to see the tekel this year, the scales being tipped. So just like the time of Belshazzar, he died. So will 46 die, or will he go mad? I don't know, but I tell you, it'll be one of the two. Or I would tell you, my gut feeling is one of the two. So if that be the case. And then you've got, I love this story here, Darius. This one's great because Daniel's like the number after everything that Daniel's done. Darius is not a dumb man. He knows, he loves Daniel. And then these people, he's basically going to be put second in command. And on all the administrators who get pissed because they want to be in charge. So they trick Darius into signing a decree, I think it was, which in essence is going to get Daniel killed. And then next thing you know, Daniel gets thrown into the lion's den to be killed because the king can't reverse what he signed. He couldn't do it.
Right.
And so that night, Daniel gets thrown in the lion's den, and then Daniel's in there all night. The king's freaking out because he doesn't want him to die. He runs there in the morning, and Daniel has your God saved you. And then those who don't know the story, you gotta love this. There's a huge lion. The lion's actually Daniel, and I believe it was Jesus Christ standing between them. How great is that? And if it wasn't, they were the angels, but come on, you gotta love that story. Nothing touched him. So another king of Babylon, a king of Babylon, not of Israel, a king of Babylon. What did he decree? What did Darius decree? I hereby decree that in every part of my kingdom, men are to be humble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God. And he endures forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and his dominion will never end. So you've got the king of Babylon decreeing that Daniel's God is the God, and his kingdom will never end. He'll never be destroyed. Like, you gotta love these stories. Another 24-hour beautiful example of how God turns the tables. So
well, and Bo, what that story, as you were reading it, it just reminds me of how we started this interview off when they think they've been so smart and they've come up with this plan to make America fall. And they thought the same thing here. They thought they'd trick them into signing this.
They're trying to throw America in the lion's den. You see, they want to kill everybody.
Yes.
That's a good point. Great point you just brought up. Very, very good point.
It's the exact same thing. And then I want to get to the last one because this is the last one's awesome. But before we do that, just scrolling back on this, each one of these is a suddenly moment. It's a 24-hour. It's night to morning. This one up here is that very night. This one up here is in a few hours, and then this one here is in one day. So these are all stories of that when it looks hopeless, and then all of a sudden, boom, things change in 24 hours or less.
Right. And so
And then, all right, do the
yeah.
last one.
And the reason I made all these new slides was because I was, again, this past weekend, before I do a presentation, I'm like kind of, I pray and I think, and I get these downloads, and I kept getting do Daniel. So I put together this entire presentation. I was in the Clay Clark Reawaken America tour. Like, that thing was awesome. Millions of people viewing. And so this is the whole essence of the presentation, how God is God, the creator of all things, and God can flip the tables in 24 hours. So as ugly as everything looks, God's in charge, and he's got this. And he's got this.
Love it.
That's the essence of what's happening. And Trump is replaying again, I'm an analyst of time. What is a cycle? A cycle of time is this point between, I said earlier, between 2 points, a start and a finish. So it's a timeline. So I'm analyzing the timeline. And so what I've discovered is Cyrus, King Cyrus, Trump is replaying a cycle. What does that mean? Here's what it means. In essence, so if you read Second Chronicles, and also there's a prophecy by Jeremiah. Jeremiah clearly stated in the prophecy that Israel, so here's a prophecy. The prophet Jeremiah prophesies that King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, would capture Jerusalem, and Israel would be served Babylon for 70 years and be freed by Cyrus. And then Cyrus would decree that they can build to build God's temple in Jerusalem. So that was a prophecy of Jeremiah. Well, if you read Second Chronicles, what did Cyrus say at the end of 70 years? Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all kingdoms of the earth, because he was the powerful one. He was the great Cyrus. So God's given him all the kingdoms of the earth. And he has charged me, meaning Cyrus, to build him a house in Jerusalem. And that was decreed 70 years from when the fall of Jerusalem. And so how does that parallel? So in 1948, Israel was proclaimed, those I guess May 14th of 1948, Israel was proclaimed a state, and exactly, not even a day off, precisely 70 years to the day, May 14th, 2018, Trump opens the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. So Trump has now fulfilled half of the second of Isaiah 44. Next comes Isaiah 45. And it just happens to be 45. Well, let's read what it says. Now, I'm going to first read it with the word Cyrus, and then we're going to replace Cyrus with Trump. So I will raise up Cyrus in my righteousness. I will make all his ways straight. He will rebuild my cities and set my exiles free, but not for a price or reward, says the Lord Almighty. Cyrus did it out of his heart. He released Israel. He didn't get paid for it. He did it. And he asked Israel to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. Now, since Trump is playing the Cyrus cycle of time, we're now going to replace this with Trump. So I will raise up Trump. Isn't that what happened? In my righteousness. And that's about to happen here. Trump's going to really turn to God. I will make all his ways straight. What does that mean? It means he doesn't struggle for anything. Everything he touches turns to gold. Everything just happens for him. You can't take him down. You throw things at him, it just drops off. Nothing sticks. So I will make all his ways straight, meaning easy. It's like he's not weaving through the wilderness. He just goes straight, and he just gets whatever he wants. And this is the best part.
Oh boy! He
will rebuild my cities. What just happened to all the cities?
Right.
And what are the exiles? It's just church, the God's church. And he will rebuild my cities and set my exiles, set my church, my people, and let my people go, Moses, and he will set my exiles free, but not for a price or reward. He had to take he didn't want any money, but he took $1 because he had to. He had to take $1. Because that was how it's, so he takes it so he's not taking it, he's not doing it for money. He does it because he loves the United States. So we're about to see the second part of Isaiah 45 come to be. So let's talk about that. When could it happen? Or when could we see something truly historic manifest? So let's go back in time, because we're looking at cycles, right? So this is what I discovered. On September 10th of 1952, The German-Israeli reparation agreement was signed. What does that mean? That Germany's paying Israel millions and millions for damages.
Mm. Hmm.
70 years to the day is this September 10th.
Mm.
So by this September 2022, the evil ones will pay for their sins against humanity.
Wow. And you're not saying it may take that long. You're saying that's when
No. They're signing an agreement by that. They've been exposed, destroyed. And why is September so important? Because the year of Jubilee, right? So let's scroll to page 12. Okay. So Rosh Hashanah started September 6th and ends September 24th. We're in the year of Jubilee. So the reparation agreements on September 10th would be September 10th. Okay. So the Jubilee ends in September.
Wow.
So by September, God's hand, he's let's just say he's resting.
Oh, that is amazing, Bill. That is really good stuff.
So those who fear not, because God's got this under control. This is a 6,000-year prophecy that takes us all the way back to Eden. Go to page 17, okay? This is the story. We've got 4,000 years of the Jews. It's a 4-2-1 cycle. Those who've studied my work in the past, it's a 1-2-4, 4-2-1, 1-2-4, 4-2-1. It's a repeating cycle, but the big multi-thousand-year cycle is a 4,000-year cycle, leading to a 2,000 years of the Gentiles, which we're just finishing here. Okay, we're in end times now. We started that in 2020. We're at third seal, so we're heading into 1,000 years of millennial reign. Doesn't mean Christ comes back in 2030. Okay, he's going to come back. I don't want to talk about that right now, but it's going to be somewhere potentially, after, once we get into the 2030s or after. My point being is that there's not a whole lot of time left. We're at end times right now. The story's written. God wins, but before Christ shows up, we get the move, we get the hand, like Belshazzar, the writing on the wall, Tekel. Tekel. We got Tekel coming, and it's going to be fun to watch. So as we wait, the fuse is lit. That's all. The fuse is lit. It ends in glory or devastation. Okay, it depends on what you've sown. What seeds have you sown? If you've sown evil, boy, are you going to reap evil. If you've sown into God's kingdom, blessings are coming your way, including those who maybe haven't even bought precious metals because they don't have the money. If you've got mortgages, don't be surprised. Okay, banks are going to go under. Okay, and who holds your mortgages? The banks. Well, guess what's going to disappear potentially? I'm not telling you it's going to. I'm saying that's what a jubilee is. It means debt forgiveness. Okay, so will your mortgages disappear? I don't know. Potentially, that's what a jubilee is. So all I'm telling you is this is going to be an awesome year. It's going to be an incredible year for the world. An incredible year for the world. Exciting as all heck. But back to page one, right? Exciting as all heck, crazy as all heck. But again, it's the year is the great. It's the great exposure, the great removal, the great fall, the great overturning, the great wealth transfer. This will be the greatest move of God's. This is expected to be the next to creation. Potentially one of the greatest move of God's spirits ever in the history of this world. And everything to be true flips upside down this year.
Oh, there is so much in here. I'm scrolling through.
Oh yeah, that's.
I want to tell people.
I just updated that. If your viewers want to check out page 79, that is worth checking out. I just updated this for you. Okay, I did the wave counts for you. Okay, so those who can count to 7, I hope you can figure out where 8 would be.
It looks pretty good. So this is a silver chart. This is a 40-year chart. And what you're saying is when it breaks over that top line, that's when it starts to go vertical. And you've been talking about that for a long time.
And it's never going to look back. They've been fighting forever to never have to heaven forbid silver go over $50. You see what I'm saying? When that event happens, these people are finished. Their dollar is going to be, you could have the stock market at $100,000, but the dollar is going to be worth, pennies on the dollar. So what's it really worth? Because silver is going to be $2,000 an ounce. So who cares what the stock market's worth? You're only going to buy a couple ounces of silver. You see what I'm saying? It becomes useless.
Oh, Bo,
Because
there is so much in here. I'm scrolling through as you're talking. Here's the seals. You've talked about those already. I
yeah,
want to tell everybody, please go under the video. There's a link to get these slides. They're totally free. Bo's time today is totally free. It's again, Bo, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on, and your work here is incredible. So please grab these slides. We
stop at
can't
91.
possibly talk
A
about
very
them all.
Sorry, go to 91. Very common question. People say,
There you go.
how does the coronavirus relate to to the plague? So go look at it. It's the Sistine Chapel. Okay, that's not Jesus. That's Apollo. He's got all the muscles, got the ripped abs. Okay, that's not Jesus. Okay, that's Apollo. And you look at his face. So basically, what is just read what the first seal is. But basically, it describes Apollo. Apollo is also a god who brings ill health and deadly plagues with his arrows. Okay, so that's who Apollo is. And so notice the light around him, the corona around him.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's just this data upon data. I've been blessed with time to make these charts. I'm trying. My goal is to have the world see forward. These have the world understand. And these are not only my words, words of prophets I've interlaced with all of this stuff. And there's so much data in here, thousands and thousands of hours that I've been blessed. So I did this for the world to have a look into the future. So I hope everybody takes advantage of what was done. And every few months, I continue to update them. So as we do more interviews in the future, I continue to update the charts.
Yeah. Oh, here's Bo. Here's Cliff. You've got a slide on Cliff High. He said recently he's got January 22nd as a big date, and that fits right into your time frame. He said that's he doesn't do what you do, but he looks at big data and he looks at the emotional values from his data. And he said it's just off the charts on January 22nd. So
yeah,
that would fit very well with what you're saying.
Yeah, so I was looking at my so just kind of give your viewers a little bit of a of a little piece. I was looking at the cycle chart, for the daily. It's not the monthly or the weekly, the daily cycle chart for Bitcoin. And this Friday into Saturday could be very fun.
Well, there you
could
go.
Be. Doesn't have to be. And if it's not, it's just going to be, we'll look at it next week. But the point is, we're so close, and so we could see some excitement coming into this weekend here. It could be very, very exciting. But the point is as exciting comes, you get extreme volatility. So you get big up, big downs, and so everything gets a little bit extremely volatile as the markets start to explode. So it's boring until it's not, and when it's not boring, it's crazy as all heck. So there's two ways to look at the markets. But I tell you that all of this is premised upon one thing, and we've said this numerous times: the hand of God, which ultimately takes down the dollar. That's the essence of all of this. When God intervenes to take down the dollar, however the mechanism is, whatever his plan is, that is going to be the fireworks for gold, for silver, and for cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin, including Bitcoin. And you'll notice even today, silver started to take the lead as gold didn't change much, but silver went up decently today. So silver is going to lead gold in 2022. And cryptos will probably, for a short while, lead silver.
Well, Bo, we can only have you on every so often. We try and get you on every 2 to 3 weeks, and because people just want to hear what's new, and me most of all. But I guess I want to leave people with this slide 107. If you want to hear from Bo more often, he does this for free. The slides are free, and you don't have to pay for anything. But if you want to hear from him more often, and if you're interested more in the in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, gold, and silver, he's got a service that he does. He mentioned his website before, gold2020forecast.com. You can get it. I subscribe to it. I love it. You send out an email usually every couple days, and you get this big, if you think these slides are beautiful, you get these big, beautiful slides with charts, and Bo goes coin by coin through everything that's listed on the screen there, and some other ones actually too. some new ones that he's been covering, and it's awesome. So throw that out there. If we're going to have to wrap this interview up tonight, but if you want to get more from Bo and stay in touch, or if you're a trader, or if you want to, see when the right time to get in and get out's very important too. Like Bo says, there's some big ups and downs coming. So if you want to get that, Bo always offers a discount on that, 50% off. You go to gold2020forecast.com and you just key in WLT49 in the code box. That's going to drop your price. You can try it for 14 days, see if you like it. And if you don't like it, you can cancel. But I've been a member for a couple of years and just love it. So Bo, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, but that really is a great service you put out there. And I know a lot of people enjoy getting those.
What I can only add is what you said is accurate. Most importantly is I see a very big move coming, but off this move is a very big, sharp, sudden crash. So you got to be really careful with cryptocurrencies. And that's the essence of cryptocurrencies. They move up fast, but they crash big. So so my job is to watch it as close as I can to avoid the big crashes. And so we've been tracking it since last year, since 2020. It's been an incredible ride we've had so far. And now we know we're at there's going to be a very powerful lake coming and a very big crash. So it's kind of a great point, but also you got to be careful here. So those who are interested, you're looking for, the cycle move to the upside and the crash. We're going to provide that to our subscribers. So that's all in the Bitcoin index. So if you're interested, that is what we do. Otherwise, just buy and hold.
There you go. And I love that you say that every time, Bo. I mean, that's a great strategy for a lot of people. Just buy and hold, and you're going to probably do pretty good. But for the people that want more, you offer that there, and I love how you don't try to pressure people into that. It's for the people that want it. So if you want to get it, go to gold2020forecast.com, key in WLT49. You're going to get a discount. The other thing that you do, Bo, and this has become as popular as your newsletter, because we are really early on some of this stuff. At least that's my opinion, and you're the cycle guy, so you can tell me if I'm wrong. But Bitcoin's been around for about a decade now, but not a lot of people know about it still. And if they know about it, they've only heard about it, and it's intimidating. They don't know how to buy it, or how to buy it safely, or where to hold it safely. You can't just call up your stockbroker and tell them you want to buy Bitcoin. They won't do it for you. And so there are safe ways to do it, and there are unsafe ways to do it, and there are scams out there, and there's all sorts of stuff. And so you and your son have put together on slide 108 here this easy crypto school, and it basically takes you from not knowing anything about how to buy Bitcoin or some of these other ones, because some of the other ones you're actually saying are going to have bigger percent returns. And so you want to get some of those too. And some of those are harder to find or figure out how to do it. So if you want to do any of these that are on the screen, you take people from square one to the end and you tell them how to do it safely. And I've kind of had to learn the hard way, because this didn't exist when I started, and I've lost some money along the way, and I've done some things wrong. And so I cannot recommend this enough. This one, if you need help, if you want to learn and you want to learn how to do it safely, that's what we're all about here. And so I am really happy to tell people about this. This is easycryptoschool.com. And again, it's you're going to give people 50% off if they want to key in that. Just put in WLT39. You're gonna get it for $39. You can try it for 30 days. And again, if you don't like it after 30 days, just cancel it. But that's really going to teach you a lot. And so I always love telling people about things that are going to help them. And so this is a favorite of mine. Bo, I'll turn it over to you if there's anything else you want to say on that one. But always happy to tell people about good things.
No, exactly. I fully agree. Like I just say, Bitcoin itself, the big entry on Bitcoin when it was at, $100, $200, I got in at 400 range, so the point is like now that it's at these $40,000 range, it's great, but now, the next target, let's say it's 100,000. Okay. Well, that's great, but that's like a 2x, maybe 2.5 fold move from where it is today. That's fantastic. But like no complaints, right? But as Bitcoin does that, you're going to see some of these alternate coins that we cover do 10x, like they're 10-fold move, some 20. So some of these coins are going to multiply what Bitcoin will do. So it's important to kind of know some of the coins and how to get them. But the essence of all of this, as you said, the essence of all of this is to not lose what you got. Whether you have $100 worth or $1 million worth or more, you can't lose it. And so it's important, number one, to know how to get involved, because your brokers, they have no clue, number one, about how to even buy crypto. And, most of them are not even going to, and if they do, they're not going to help you. Highly doubt it. Or if they do, they're going to sell you a stock version of it. So when you buy like GBTC, you're not buying Bitcoin, you're buying a paper representation of Bitcoin. So all of those that are out there that, hey, I'm involved in crypto, I own GBTC on the stock market. You don't own Bitcoin. You own a paper representation of Bitcoin. And one day when you want to get your Bitcoin, it may not be there because you don't own any Bitcoin. You're only owning a paper representation of it. So, so people need to understand that, getting involved in crypto technically, it specifically means buying it, the actual coin, they're digital coins. Then you need to know how to move them around safely. You need to know where to store them, because that's important. There's always people out there, going to say, hey, here's how you send me this and I'll show you something. Next thing you know, all you hear is scam stories out there, people losing thousands and thousands of dollars of cryptocurrencies. Like, it's horrible. I've heard one lady lost over six digits, 200,000-300,000, whatever it was. It was. So, these people are losing mass amounts of money, not everybody, but the people who don't really know what they're doing, or they're paying people to do it for them. That's where you get messed up, so it's important to not rely on third parties. Learn to do it yourself. That's the essence of because it's peer to peer. I send you a coin or a fraction of a coin, Noah, because it's peer to peer, person to person. Okay. You don't need a middleman. So those that are used to having someone else take care of for you, that's not what it is. And once you learn how to do this, it's actually really not that complicated. But there's 7 steps that I've in this course that you have to learn. And once you've learned those 7 steps, you ultimately know how to get them, store them safely, and everything in between you'll learn, because those steps are there. But ultimately, then you're not relying on a third party, a third person to help you, because that's where people really get messed up. That's how they lose their finances, by having somebody do it for you. Once they take it from you, you can't get it back. There's no one to call. So it's the cryptocurrencies, as exciting they are, you need to take control of it yourself, and you need to own it and know how it works. And so that's why, we put together this course for people, just so they can take control of their own finances. We show you how to do it, then you do it. And the number one rule is never, once you've done it all, always, we talk about test amounts, send a test first. So all the steps are in there so you don't mess up.
Perfect. Well, if you want those 7 steps, you just go to easycryptoschool.com. You put in WLT39 in the promo code box. That's going to save you, going to get you for $39. And Bo, one thing I really liked when you were just talking is, you said don't buy GBTC because that's a paper representation of Bitcoin. There are, I don't know how many people know this, but this is, when I heard this very early on, it was one of the only things I knew about crypto. But when they create a Bitcoin, there will only ever be 21 million of them. That's all that will exist. It's written into the computer code and it cannot be changed. So we spent all the time earlier talking about how they just printed 7 trillion new dollars. Well, guess what? Your dollar is worth a whole lot less when they just printed 7 trillion of them. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin ever in the world. And so that blew my mind the first time I heard it. After I heard that, that was really all I needed to know that this is something that is going to have value, because there are more millionaires in the world than 21 million. So if all of them wanted to go out and just get one Bitcoin, they couldn't do it. You can't, they don't exist. So anyway, I throw that out there for the people that don't understand maybe why what's so special about this? Or why is cryptocurrency? Why are you always talking about this? Well, it's because it's scarce and it's written into computer code that you can't wake up tomorrow morning and they've printed 7 trillion more of them. So that's exciting. And that's why it's like silver and gold. They're not making any more of it. Whatever is in the ground is in the ground, and that's what exists. And you can't all of a sudden tomorrow have 7 times the amount of silver in the world. So we've never really talked about that, Bo, but when I heard that is just one of the most fascinating things about cryptocurrency, and one of the reasons I like it so much.
Well, it's exactly it. What gives art value? What gives a Van Gogh paintings value? What gives a Mona Lisa value? It's the fact that there's only one Mona Lisa. What gives the Van Gogh paintings value? Or the Picassos, because there's only the originals. There's only that one, right? And so they can make copies of them, but the copies are not nearly worth what the original is worth. My point being is that when something's in limited supply, that's what gives it value, period. You're right. It's exactly what it is. So if they have the ability to create money out of thin air, okay, you believe it's money, that's fine. So your belief system is that it's money, that's fine. But it can be created to infinity. So is your belief system valid or accurate? You need to consider that. And that's what so people say, why is Bitcoin value? It's not that it's any better than anything else. It's the fact that it's not that it's like truly an amazing coin. It's just that there's 21 million of them. And so that fact, that's what gives it value, is that you and I agree it's money. People across the world believe it's money. So we've come to an agreement that Bitcoin is money. That's what it is. And the problem for the bankers is there's only 21 million of them, which means that it's going to go to 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, like in time, because they've created so much money. So that's the problem. But gold and silver are going to get, once they lose control, gold and silver are going to get tied up in that. And we're going to see the greatest moonshot vertical as well, too. So basically, Bitcoin is nothing different and doing nothing but front running, meaning it's moving ahead of what gold and silver are soon to do.
Well, there you go. And I'm going to throw out one more thing for my friends in the XRP army. Bitcoin's not the only one that has a fixed supply. XRP, there's only 100 billion of those, and that seems like a big number. But it's the point is it's a fixed number, and actually each transaction burns a little bit of the coin, and so the number, it's actually a deflationary coin. We hear so much about inflation. Some of these coins are deflationary to where there's going to be less of them existing tomorrow than there was today. So I bet this is going to blow up the comments below the video, and that's okay, because some people love XRP and some people hate it, but it has a lot of the same characteristics. So there's my shout out to the XRP army. And if you're in, go ahead. What do you want to say on that one?
What I want to say about XRP is that I have nothing against it, because it's going to go up with Bitcoin, right? So as the alternate coins go up, so is XRP. So and it's one of the coins in the future will probably still be around. So it's nothing wrong with XRP. There's coins that are out there, for thousands of, they're going to go to zero. Okay. I don't see XRP being one of those. So I would agree. There's nothing wrong with XRP. It's a good coin. It's just that the pattern of XRP, generally speaking, because it's more of a banker's coin, it sits around forever and then it has a jump. If you missed a jump, then it's going to sit around forever again, and then it's going to have another jump. So whereas other coins technically move better than XRP, because so that's the problem with XRP. It's forever sat around going nowhere. But then when it's going to jump, it's going to be a big jump coming. So I got some myself.
Oh, there you go.
It's just that there's a big jump coming. It's just that after it's done jumping, it kind of sits around for a long time. So there's other coins.
Well, there you go, everybody.
But don't panic. It's a good coin.
Well, you got a little sneak peek there. That's your freebie right at the end from Bo. That if we've got some XRP holders in the audience here, Bo's saying hang on, and he talks a lot more about it in his report. So I have to be fair to the people that pay for that, and I can't give it away. But if you want the details on that jump, he's got it in the report. He just released a new version last night. It's all in there, and it's a really good number. It's going to be a number that you're going to be very happy with if it plays out according to the cycles that Bo is seeing. So everybody that likes XRP, hang in there, and you might be real happy soon. So Bo, I want to wrap it up. We've had you on for over an hour. It's always such a pleasure. That's I look forward to this. Yeah,
we haven't talked in a while, so there you go. Lots of info.
It is always so much fun to have you on. as I always do, though, I want to give you the last word. What do you want to leave people with? We've talked about a lot. We've talked about the fuse. We've talked about the 24-hour period. We're there. It's all here. Things have been delayed, but they're not canceled. We are in the moment. So what lasting message do you want to leave people with tonight as we wrap up?
I think the best place to always finish is God the Father is in charge, period. Whatever these people are doing, they're working for a loser. Okay. Satan's lost over and over and over and over and over. Go study the Bible. Okay. It's like, so they've signed up with a loser who basically is about to lose. And so God, the hand of God's about to appear. Many tekel. Okay. So we're going to see tekel, the rebalancing of the financial system. That is a third seal of Revelation event. How it plays out, particularly, no one knows. But I do know directly it's been prophesied in relation to the dollar. The dollar is the thing that God's going to take down. And then they lose their abilities to control the world. And we're now in winter. Every day is getting longer. So every day as the light gets more light exposed to the darkness. So we're coming to some event in the very near future. And it's going to be a 24-hour event that once this event happens, the world will change forever. And these people are going to be freaking out because it's harvest. So that's what you have sown, thus you shall reap. If you've sown evil, you will receive evil. So the evil you wanted on other people, you will receive it yourself. If you've sown into God's kingdom, you will receive blessings like you've never seen before. So this is supposed to be the greatest financial event in human history we're about to witness.
I love it. Well, Bo, that is the perfect last word. Bo's site is gold2020forecast.com. You've been listening to the Daily Truth Report. It has been a great time, Bo. We're going to have you back on soon, and we really appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
God bless you, Noah.